It's January. I'm back in the garden making a mess today, preparing because it's winter-ish. Do you see all the leaves I had to strip off? The apricot to try to get it to go into dormancy. I'm going to spray it soon with horticultural oil and copper fungicide, as well as the other fruit trees, just to prevent any issues this year. I went to a lot of great classes at City Farmers Nursery, which is super cool. Going to keep going back there and learned a lot about preventing any issues. But what I thought has been super neat is I've been pulling off the mulch that we put down, and look at all the nice dirt that has been coming from the mulch as it's breaking down. You can see really stark difference in this hole right here. So this is the original clay that's been in the garden, and then look at the level right there of the rich dirt that's coming from the mulch. This is going to be the hole where the peach tree is planted. So I'm going to measure how deep that is, get in there, make the hole twice as wide. Lots and lots of grubs in here from June bugs. I've been tossing them in there because I don't have the heart to kill them. I'm also gonna trim up this tree right here. I think that branch right there is rootstock, which is what the owner of City Farmers Nursery also said. So that's got to go bye-bye. We do have some winter issues. A lot of mildew on the papaya, which is not great. Yeah. We'll see. The native plant area is also going to get a refresh. I planted that white sage and it's been sad ever since. I hope it comes back. Manzanita hasn't done much. Everything else, of course, is a little bit more dormant because it's winter. I finally figured out what this volunteer plant is. It's a bougainvillea. So that is going to get potted up in a new spot. That's not a good place for it. I was starting to get some native plants. Like this margarita bop, super pretty. I have a ton of native wildflower seeds that I'm going to sprinkle around in this area and make sure it gets a good water, or do it before the next rain. And hopefully this will be really lush, provide more coverage for the monarch caterpillars that didn't do so hot last year. All right, so here's the progress. Peach tree planted, check. I'm also putting in some bulbs. These videos are for future me to remember what I did here. Star of Bethlehem, 1, 2. Gladiolus, empty, probably ranunculus. Gladiolus, 2, Star of Bethlehem, along the strip line. Remember that when these start coming up and you want to know what they were. Okay, cool. In other news, I dug up the volunteer bougainvillea that was in the native patch right there, which couldn't stay. And I don't think it's a volunteer seed. I think there used to be a bougainvillea plant somewhere in this yard, because this is not a new root system. This is a root system figuring out where to go from underneath the pavers, which is where it came from. We'll see if I can get this to root. I won't be heartbroken if not, because the bougainvillea are kind of in my book, but we'll give it a chance at life. We also have a major problem with ants right now. You can see they're digging underneath the pavers, and they're everywhere. I pulled this up to dig out the bougainvillea, and there's a huge ant pile underneath this one. I think they're have quite the network, so we're trying to get rid of them with the ant bait. We need to try something else. I love some bugs in the yard, but it's the point where it's hazardous to walk out here sometimes because there's so many ants everywhere, especially when watering. Speaking of watering, this is my winter succulent arrangement, so they get sunshine. Little rows of everything. It's cool to see them come back to growth phase after the stress of the summer. I think it looks pretty nice all lined up. So again, most of these are going out in the front yard once we get rid of the lawn after we regrow the lawn. Other things is I'm starting potatoes, trying that for the first time. Right there, some are coming up. And then just planted a bunch of junk in this garden bed. Some vetch, which is a ground cover, and sort of whatever random garden seeds I had just to see what would come up. Thanks to a Lemon Grove garden event with some volunteer gardeners, I have some starts for strawberries, carrots, beets that are thrown in here. And then the mint is, I bet, going to come back. There's a lot of mint roots in here. And then also in the shade now I have my Monstera, and the Plumeria are dormant, mostly. That guy's still hanging on. That's okay. No! What we doing?
We have an inspector coming probably in a week or so for another project that we're finally getting done, which is going to be exciting. So because we have an inspector coming, we don't want to have open room mix, so this weekend we're going to hide it away.
Yay, hopefully. I'm scared.
We'll first cut the power, obviously, and then we're gonna cut that strip out. We'll see what's happening behind it.
Want to tell us what you learned?
Well, not much besides it's just kind of like a weird amalgamation of wood and cardboard. Our favorite cardboard is back.
But we learned it goes to that outlet. That's a corner, that's original corner. And then there's wall, original wall.
And all I can see in there is that the Romex goes in here a little bit, it's stapled, and then it goes that way. So, probably to that. Okay, let's open this up.
Okay.
And then see if the wires, because if the wires are coming down from the wall, and it's just one set, it's probably that.
Yeah.
Which means we might be able to pull it out. I don't know where it goes from there though, but at least we have an end. And we might be able to drill a hole into this and kind of feed it in. I don't know. It's just wood on wood on wood.
We're in the stage of annoyance and confusion. This is how thick the mud was on the drywall over there. They really love to pile it on. And then in other news, we took off the vent cover, which wasn't even screwed on. The original ceiling was pushed back to along that line, which actually you can see pretty good on the camera. So this whole chunk is new, but in order to put the vent here, they just did a really funky job. They connected this vent to the original ducting, and it's like collapsed and failed. So whenever we have the HVAC stuff done, I think we're gonna have to cut out this chunk of the ceiling and actually like fix this and get a good connection, because this is sucky. Where were we last?
Where were we last? So we did a lot of digging. Thankfully I have an Insta360, so we were able to shove that in there to record to see where things were going both this way and this way, because we suspect that this is the same wire. Or at least,
This is like for your police camera.
I know. So we cut it and we just turned the power back on, so that one is live. This one is now dead. This outlet's dead, so this is completely cut off. And now I think the plan now is to cut that back even further, cap it, probably just shove it in there and call it dead, and then we'll put a blank right there because that's dead as well. Thankfully we don't have to rip out any more drywall with this. We can just patch what we've already cut and mud over everything and smooth it out, and everything will be hunky-dory there.
Also,
And
Noodle
all that stuff.
is learning how to climb stuff. She climbed the ladder. She got on like the third step. Not the step ladder, but the actual like ladder. What are you doing? Okay, so for future peace of mind for us, Alex has capped all 3 wires, and now he's electrical taping over them.
Standing. Holes are getting closed. I don't think we showed this the other day. After we got the Romex all covered up, we patched. I caught some spare drywall scraps, squared them all up there, and then like 3 in that corner. And so now we're gonna start butting over and smoothing it out like it was never there.
It's gonna take a couple coats. This is bad.
This corner's probably gonna need the most. There's some visible holes up on the top and in this little corner. Yay. Back to some wood cutting. We got some 2x4s and we got a big old sheet of plywood. So we're actually going to be doing a couple of projects with this, primarily a headboard, which is going to be the majority of that. And then this is to frame it. And then with what remains, we're going to make some shelves for this shed that we have in the back, so that could be a little bit more organized. So I'm going to get cutting. Final routering from Caitlin, but we got all of our wood cut for our 2 wood projects. So we got the headboard here with the plywood on top of it, so that's all nice and sanded, ready for some foam and some fabric to make it actually look like a good headboard. And then this is just what's left of the shelves in the outdoor storage area. So this is a top shelf just with the scrap plywood that we had from the headboard. Even did a little bonus project with the leftover beadboard. It was like the perfect length for the side of this countertop area. So I got one cut here and that's all nailed in, and another one on this side that's cut, but there's a few pipes and stuff sticking out, so more cuts need to be done before this gets lined up, but looks a little bit nicer. Well, now it's time to upholster our headboard. So we have the foam. We're using an old foam mattress topper, And I got this sprayed with some glue, so now it's getting tacky, and then I'll roll this over so it's got some egg cartony shapes, so we're kind of interlocking it with that. And then we'll put that on the headboard. Meanwhile, what the heck are you doing?
None of our HVAC contractors that we've gotten quotes from have done like an actual calculation of the manual J or anything for the house. And the company we want to go with will only do a 4-ton unit for us, and I'm worried that it's going to be oversized and kick on and off too much. So in order to like assuage my fears, I'm using an app where I have to measure the volume of the whole house, like enter windows, enter like outside wall information, and it's supposed to give you a calculation. So